My name is Amara Wynn, and welcome to the author series where today I'm going to be interviewing Gabriel Garcia. How are you, Gabriel?
I'm doing well, Amar. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
Oh, I can't wait to talk to you. Since I did my interview with you, I do have some interesting questions to throw back at you. So we're going to jump to it in just a second. First, let me tell everybody about who you are. You are more than just an indie author. You are a vibrant storyteller and a passionate historian, which I've noticed when I was reading through your books that you are a history buff, which
Mm-hmm.
is it's very detailed. You like to weave tales across the realms of fantasy, speculative fiction, historical fiction, and science fiction. You grew up in the sun-soaked expanses of Southern California. Gabriel's vivid imagination was ignited by his deep-seated love for history and the art of storytelling, and it definitely reflects in your books. Influenced by the literary prowess of masters like Bernard Cornwell, Con.
Eagleton, yeah, he has a very unusual last name.
Yeah, I'm not even gonna try. You channel your creative spirit into crafting narratives. Now, not only do you write books, but you also have a your own YouTube channel and you have a very active group on Instagram. So you host this podcast and it's called Tales from the Wandering Scribe. And you also connect with fellow writers and creatives and you dive into meaningful conversations about their journey. I was so happy to be on your podcast talking to you, and I cannot wait to interview you today. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Awesome, Amara. I am so excited to be here. And honestly, I don't get a chance to do a lot of the reversal, so to speak, where I'm the interviewee as opposed to the interviewer, though I'm hoping that will change for 2026.
It is awkward when you're used to being the person who interviews everybody to then be on the other side. I felt the same way when I was talking to you. I was like, I don't know how to do this. I don't know what I'm doing. I hope I don't sound stupid. Now, tell us a little bit about your books. Just a quick overall of I think you've got there's four, right?
Yes, which I actually have right next to me. So
Sure,
we'll
let's see them.
begin with the first book. This was the first book. Oh, if I can get the background not to mess with it. So this is the first book, The Gathering, which was my introduction into the world of fiction. It is Magnificent Seven meets Lord of the Rings with a little bit of time travel and a little bit of epicness all around. That led to the spin-off Amyntas, son of Persia, which follows another character from The Gathering. And this is my first dive into historical fiction and speculative fiction, as it's set in ancient Greece during the Greco-Persian Wars. Now, taking a break from the world of history, I wrote Michael, Last Angel of Earth, if I could just get the cover to
I'm gonna have
work.
them on the screen too, so don't even worry about it.
Okay. This is my first dive into the world of epic fantasy, where you have the character Michael, a former archangel, emphasis on former, as it is an integral part of the story, who causes the end of the world and now must live his life as a Nephilim known as Barjan. And it's only until a traumatic event happens 10 years after the fall of heaven that he has to go back on his warrior path with his own group of heroes. A lot of people have said it's pretty much my take on D&D
I
and
said
try
that.
to and try to reclaim, his heavenly name. And now, more recently, we get into Decimus the Wolf of Rome. This is a direct sequel to Son of Persia, which follows a second character from the Gathering universe. Now, if you're a fan of 300, Gladiator, and epic Roman style stories, this is a book you definitely need to read. A lot of heartache, a lot of grief, a lot of action. I will just say this, if you are a parent and you want to read this book, just fair warning, there is a scene that is going to be very, very tough to read. I'm not going to spoil it, but if you know, you know.
I know. So you warned me. I'm glad you did. It made a big difference in reading it. Now, you have such a great grasp on marrying the two, the fantasy and the history, but you obviously have a deep love of history. When you were first writing, what sparked that interest to include history into your storytelling?
Well, I think I want to say going back a little bit. So I was in my graduate program at San Francisco State in like 2020, so just before things started going south for the quarantine and pandemic. And originally, I actually had The Gathering written back in 2018 when I was still in my undergrad, but I didn't really know where to go with it. And as I was, you know, fully discovering my passion for history, I realized let's actually add a little bit more history into the book. And that was, having more of the battles, having more of the backstories of the characters. Because the original draft did not have anything. You just had, oh, a Spartan, Roman, Celt, Viking. That was it. You didn't have their backstories. You didn't have a lot of the lead up to them being summoned to get an idea of who they were. It was just they're dropped into this world, they have no idea, and that was it. I wanted to change that. I want to include a little bit more history, either a particular battle, to help the reader kind of get an idea of who these characters were and how they would react to certain situations.
So you got your master's degree in history, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, so did that actually, when you were writing these books, were you diving deep into your academic setting to get some information?
Oh, yes, absolutely. And that actually played a huge role in the spin-offs Son of Persia and The Wolf of Rome, because those are, yes, they do have a little bit of fantasy in it, and it is speculative fiction, but it's the background, or I should say the backbone is historical fiction. I wanted to make the most likely plausible what if in both those scenarios where what if Greece lost to Persia during the Second Greco-Persian Wars? Or what if Rome fell to Carthage during the Second Punic Wars? I wanted to be as accurate as possible, and that meant going into the very archives, looking at, secondary and primary sources. I wanted to really showcase that I can not only tell a good story, but I can also educate people, but not have it be very scholastic or academic where it's like reading a reference book. I wanted
Yeah,
them
it
to
doesn't read like a
learn.
reference book at all. But it is very educational. You can tell that you were kind of diving into your studies a little bit because not everybody writes history for a reason, because it's really hard to make it not seem like you're just info dumping information out there because you need people to understand immediately. You kind of wove it all through and you
Hmm.
did it beautifully. But you mentioned the fantasy. So you do mix the historical realism with that fantasy and the mythology. What did that combination, what draws you to that?
So when I was writing fantasy, and I'll use the Gathering series for an example, I wanted to be different. I wanted to be, not like the fantasy that we've seen in a lot of other books where it's like there's a magic system or anything like that. I wanted to be more of what's the word I'm thinking of? I wanted to be more natural magic, where it's like a stone or it's like a place that has a magical presence, and I wanted to go back to that style of fantasy, and it really does show in Son of Persia and The Wolf of Rome, where you have a lot of the folk heroes and demigods and goddesses playing a role, weaving into it. And I'll give two examples. These are going to be light spoilers for both books. So, in Son of Persia, the fantasy element is there is a stone that is placed into an item called the Phoenix. And this was a weapon that was used by the Trojans during the Trojan War. It was said to be the most dangerous weapon where it could burn anything with a stone inside. It could literally set anything ablaze, doesn't matter what it is, water, wood, stone, metal, doesn't matter. If it's in its path, it's going to burn. And I wanted to really showcase that, ancient ethereal magic. And in Wolf of Rome, I wanted to hearken to, a specific moment, and this actually is a media connection to not Decimus, but Rise, Son of Rome, one of my favorite video games from the Xbox One series, where the character is brought back to life from with the help of the goddess of revenge. And I like that connection. So I took that and applied it to Decimus, changed the name a little bit to where it's mentioned in the first chapter or so, Ultio, the goddess of revenge, who brings this Roman soldier back from the pits of his own despair and molds him into this warrior of retribution. One commenter and reviewer noted that I had made my own take on the Ghost Rider character because the Ghost Rider has a mount, which is in the comics, it's a motorcycle. But for Decimus, I won't spoil it, but if you know it, you know it. And it ties into Rome's ancestral heritage, which is the she wolf of Rome.
Okay, I got you. Now we're not going to spoil anything, so be careful. Now, you mentioned earlier that when you were talking about building your historical settings and the characters, what do you build first? Do you build your historic setting? Do you build your characters? Or do you build that conflict first and then build on? So, what is the first thing that you do?
So the first thing that I do is I realize, okay, if I'm writing something that's historical, what kind of story am I looking at?
That's
And I
smart.
see what has been done before, like what historical fiction stories exist already.
That's smart.
Okay, so I'll look at Greece, for example. There's a lot of stories on Greece. They're usually after the Greco-Persian Wars, the Hellenistic age with Alexander the Great. I wanted to go back to, earlier during the 300, but I wanted to think of, okay, what hasn't been done? And I wanted to do an alternative what if. Persia winning the Greco-Persian Wars. And from that point, I was like, okay, I have my story. Then comes the research. Then I have to figure out, okay, if Persia wins, what is the most likely outcome? And that's when I started looking at the characters. What characters are going to exist in this new world? So, of course, you have to have King Leonidas. He's an integral part of the story. You have Xerxes. You have his son, Artaxerxes. You have the Grand Advisor, Artabanus. And then, of course, you have secondary characters who are fellow Spartans, as well as Athenians, some Persians, and then, of course, the main character, Amyntas Baru. And from there, I started tweaking, like, okay, what roles are these characters going to be? And from there, that's when I start jotting down my outline and figuring out, okay, this character is going to be introduced here. This is where their journey is going to begin. I like to be very detailed. I like to be very
You are very
organized.
detailed. I noticed that you are very detailed, which I mean, I was going to ask you, like, how much research goes into it, but I'm guessing a whole hell of a lot.
Oh, yes. I
Yeah.
believe for Amyntas, I think it took me about 6 months of research just to, get everything figured out. And I researched a whole bunch of, what ifs. And it wasn't just for Son of Persia. I was also building a universe of the spin-offs. I want to think of, okay, if Greece loses, what's the ripple effect? And I realized, okay, it's just going to change the Levant region. It's not going to have a lot of impact on Western European history. When I went into The Wolf of Rome, that's when the world building and the research comes into play. Because without getting too much into the academic history side, it had Rome fallen during the 200s BC, everything we know about Western European history would be completely different.
Drastically different. Yeah.
Yes, North Africa and southern Italy would be the heart of the Renaissance. You would have possibly had all of North Africa unified under Carthage. Uh, the major religions, as we know it now, would take on a very different form. Northern Europe and Northwestern Europe would remain primarily pagan. They would have developed into their own identities on their own. Because the big thing between Carthage and Rome, Rome expanded by the sword. They were very militaristic in their approach to expansion. Carthage expands through trade. They are not warmongering like the Romans. They do not want to start a war if they don't have to. So if they are going to expand and change the world, it's going to be through trade. And that is probably the biggest thing when it came to research. Like, how is Carthage going to change the world as the new power in the Mediterranean?
I was looking, oh, I went back real quick to look at your biography. I used to work at a bookstore and my brain just drew a complete blank. And I was thinking it was Bernard Cornwell. Did he write alternative history books?
So,
Who am I thinking
no.
of?
No, so that author, in particular, is the author of the Saxon Chronicles, or if people may remember it on BBC or Netflix, the Last Kingdom series about the rise of
Maybe.
Alfred the Great and the create of a modern unified Britain. He also is the author of the Sharp series, where that was also a series
I
on
don't
BBC
remember.
back in the 80s and 90s, maybe early 90s.
I'm gonna have to look it up. Hang on. Keep talking. Keep talking. I just there's somebody that I'm thinking of that your writing reminded me of.
All
But
right.
keep talking. Keep talking.
But yeah, so Bernard Cornwell, he is the author of Agincourt, 1356, The Fort, the Saxon Chronicles, and of course, more notably, the Sharp series from Sharp's Tiger, probably the most famous one, all about the Peninsula War. Sean Bean played the titular character in the Sharp series.
That was good. I saw that.
Yes. But that is the author, Amara. That is the author of that incredible series. And I was reading his books back in high school, and his works have had a profound effect on me ever since.
Okay. Yeah, I don't. Okay. It doesn't matter. Yes, I know who you're talking about. I'm not sure that was the one that I was thinking about, but that actually makes more sense than the one that I was thinking about. So, yes, I will just shut up and put my stuff down and go back. I I just remember reading it and going, there's something about your writing that reminds me of this person. And it's not that one, but that one actually makes more sense. Okay, I'm sorry. I have like ADD and I doesn't matter. So when you're doing your history research, when you're going down that whole big pipeline of information, do you ever come across anything in your research that maybe pops up that you're like, oh, that's going to change things in my story?
Ooh, that's a good question. Um, Not right now at the moment, not for the first two books, but I know, and this is a little teaser for the viewers and listeners, but I am in the process of writing the outline for book three of the spin-off series, and that's where I'm actually getting a little bit of a pickle. Because for anyone who remembers, the third character that is introduced in The Gathering is Sinbul, a Celtic warrior from 60 AD Britain. Now, in the third spin-off, it is 60 AD, but it's not the same 60 AD, following the trend of alternate history, where you have the and again, this is a light spoiler. You have Romans that are now in Spain that have now colonized Spain. That is their kingdom. You find out why that is in Decimus to find out, the history of that. And the biggest thing that I'm having a difficulty is in this universe, Symbol is taken to be the mistress of Nero. Now, anyone who knows Nero or has seen documentaries know that he was probably one of the worst emperors in Roman history.
Yeah, that doesn't
But
sound like a fun ordeal. I don't think I'd want
no,
to be her.
but as an author, I decided to do something different. I wanted to take Nero and actually make him kind of a tragic figure because a lot of historians agree that the cruelty that Nero inflicts Some argue, well, that may be kind of out of proportion because of the people he surrounded himself with. That the people who wrote about him did that to discredit him. So Nero is going to be a tragic character who also has a very, very good relationship with his half brother, or no, step brother,
Are you gonna make
Britannicus.
us like Nero?
Yes. Yes. I'm going to try to make you like Nero and possibly maybe find redemption in him. But granted, that's going to be a test because I plan to do the same thing with another character in my next series, the Last Angel Saga, with Michael being the first book in the series, and that character is, of course, Lucifer Brightstar. I'm gonna give the most dangerous and most evil angel a redemption arc.
Oh my gosh. You were okay. Well, my brain just broke a little bit. I'm not really sure how I feel about this. Are we going to go down like the Lucifer and Nero like hurt people, hurt other people?
You do find that out, especially for Nero. He was greatly, physically, maybe not physically, but emotionally and psychologically abused as a child. And you definitely do see a potential,
Gabriel.
not romantic relationship bloom between,
Gabriel.
not a romantic relationship bloom between Symbol and Nero, because Nero is married. He has three wives in histories with one child between each of his wives. But he definitely built a strong platonic relationship with Symbol, who makes him become a better emperor.
I am side-eyeing you, Gabriel. All right, let's talk about a couple of your books. I know we've been discussing them. Let's talk about Michael for a second. Tell me how to pronounce Barjon.
So that is a good question, Amar. I've had a lot of people ask me, like, how is it pronounced? Is it more of a French? Is it Barjon? Is it Barjon? How is it pronounced? And for me, when I was writing his name, I just went with the plain English version, which is Barjon. That is how his name is pronounced. And honestly, that name was just created from a fantasy name generator. I just typed up, Nephilim names. Which one is going to be easy? Oh, that one's going to be nice. That is
I love the
literally how his name.
honesty.
That is literally how his name came about, and that's how a majority of the characters' names came about, was from a fantasy name generator.
Okay, so in Michael, which is the last angel of Earth, it
Yes.
explores the themes of redemption and faith, which I'm starting to realize that is redemption is going to be kind of your thing. What inspired the story of Barjan,
Yes.
the fallen archangel?
So that was written around the same time when I was still in, lockdown, quarantine.
So these are your COVID books.
Yes, these are all my COVID books. They're very, very, very special to me. And for Michael, I wanted to write something that was a little bit different because I had never written fantasy at that time. I wasn't a big fantasy reader. So I decided, okay, let me try my own spin to it. But I realized, okay, I know I'm not a dark fantasy writer. I'm not a romance fantasy writer. I only like epic fantasy. So what kind of story can I, create? So I pulled from a lot of different sources. A big, big inspiration was the Darksider series. Now, for those who may not know that video game series, that follows the Horsemen of the Apocalypse, who fight against the armies of hell. And in the first game, for those that remember, hell is brought, or I should say, hell is brought early by war. War summoning was not supposed to happen, and that causes the end of the world. That idea of someone arriving early or doing something early kind of shifted everything, became the main catalyst for Michael. But changing out one of the writers for an angel had a lot of premise. And then from there, I realized, okay, He's stripped of his wings. What's it gonna be? I didn't want him to be human. I wanted him to still be, what's the word? Kind of like a demigod-ish, where he's mortal, but he still has power.
Right.
And from there, pretty much, you see him at his lowest. He is a man who
You do.
is so isolated within his community. I mean, he does have Margaret that he's been watching over for the last 10 years. He's in this, community in Ireland. He doesn't want to, let people know who he is. And there is a few moments in the earliest few chapters where it is, I didn't put trigger warnings for it because I didn't want to, kind of shift the reader, but it is heavily implied that Barjan is contemplating, taking his own life. It's
Right.
mentioned in like the earliest few chapters. And that was a very interesting thing because you see an angel, former angel, at his lowest, as a mortal, trying to make sense of the world around him, the world he caused. And then from there, just started building this odyssey. A lot of people will notice, and a lot of my storytelling, I have an Odyssey type journey for all of my characters because I
You do.
like the hero's journey. I like seeing characters grow. And writing Michael is probably my favorite because it allowed me to play with a lot of different mythologies, religions, and really showcase that true fantasy lover side of me that I'm now getting to explore in other works that I'm in the process of doing.
So in Decimus is the Wolf of Rome.
Yes.
You set that story during like this most dramatic period of Roman history after that was it the Battle of Cannae?
Yes.
What made you want to explore that particular moment in time?
Well, I'm glad you asked that because that truly is the do or die moment for Rome in our own history. Rome lost 75,000 men in 6 hours. I want the viewers to really understand that 75,000 men in 6 hours. This is with swords, spears, axes, bare hands. It is the largest massacre Rome had ever experienced at that time. And a lot of people agree that had Hannibal continued the momentum, if he continued pushing Rome, he would have won. Granted, his brothers are still in Spain, so they have to send him supplies. But the Carthaginian council, fearing Hannibal will become a warlord, stops. And that forces Hannibal to rethink his strategy. That gives Rome time to plan a different strategy. And that's where the shift happens.
That makes
That's where it's
sense.
mentioned just in the earliest prologue that Mago and Hasdrubal, Hannibal's brothers, they get the supplies. The council does not interfere. They were able to bring all the necessary troops, supplies, everything to help Hannibal. And that's where it just changes everything. From that battle, Rome falls. It collapsed. But Italy, as a region, is brought into the Carthaginian fold. And that's a thing, too, that I forgot to mention. Carthage did not want to eliminate other cultures, it wanted to use them when necessary, but not intermix, but not eradicate it. It wanted to slowly indoctrinate people into, their language, their alphabet, and eventually, according to the research I'd done, had that happen, Latin would have been completely eradicated gradually, and the Phoenician dialect would have been the standard in southern Italy, Sicily, Sardinia, and all of North Africa.
You considered being a history teacher?
Funny that you mentioned that. I actually am a tutor, so I do get a chance to show my academic side.
I can see you like at a community college teaching like Western Civ. You should make
Yeah,
this
I've
happen.
I've contemplated it. I have contemplated it.
You have a master's degree, so you can teach at a junior college level,
Yep, that is true. That is true.
and you could become an adjunct. I used to adjunct, so I mean, it's history was I think it was Western Civ was probably my favorite class of all the classes I took as an undergrad because of the teacher, because he made the topic very. I remember us talking about the gladiator period and we watched documentaries, but he used to act everything out for us in class. I mean, we're grown adults and we're watching this grown man act out parts of history. I see you as that kind of guy.
Well,
Okay.
thank you. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I think people would learn. And I'm learning a lot just listening to you talk. And I've read and I still like I've read the books and I still am like, huh, okay. You're very good at this. Now let's talk about the gathering really quick.
Of course.
Okay, so the gathering that brings together all these different warriors from different cultures and different time periods. What was the most fun part of writing this? With this, your characters are so diverse.
Yes.
What was the most challenging part of that, but also the most fun? Because I imagine putting all those characters together must have been super entertaining.
Yes. And I'll actually let you in on a little secret, Amara. The character list was actually supposed to be a lot longer. The
Oh,
initial
smart.
idea was supposed to have modern warriors as well. So you're going to have a British officer from the Battle of Islandwalda from the Anglo-Zulu War. You're going to have a German Wehrmacht sniper from the Battle of Stalingrad. You're also going to have a French legionnaire, former Harlem Hellfighter in North Africa as well. And then, of course, you're going to have a Marine from the Battle of Fallujah from 2004. So the character list was supposed to be a lot longer,
Just
but I
straight
realized,
chaos. My kind of vibe, straight chaos.
yes. But the most challenging thing is that I wanted to save the modern warriors for their own book. So that's why I stopped with Sparrow or his traditional Mohawk name, and I'm probably going to butcher it, Kanatagonha. That he's probably the closest that we're gonna get to the modern era. So you have Amyntas, who is the first, who is from the Bronze Age, and you have all the way up to Sparrow. So all of these warriors are brought in. I wanted to be, it is difficult, and there was an idea of them, getting a spell where they would speak, the same dialect because the fun idea was a Rome is not going to understand a Greek, and a Celtic war is not going to understand a Viking. There's a huge language barrier. But I
Right.
realized since this was my first book, I didn't want to go that heavy, that too original. So I just made sure that every one of the characters spoke English, just so that way it would help. But
I think I
I
described this book to somebody as if you really enjoy history and Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, you're going to love this book.
That is probably a good way to say it, Amara. That is very, very true. And I do pull a lot of movie scenes into my writing, especially some dialogue as little Easter eggs and references. And honestly, writing The Gathering was such a learning experience for me because it was my first book. I didn't know anything about marketing at the time. And just getting a chance to finally write, my first book was truly an amazing experience. And also a little Easter egg. I also reference my very, very, very first attempt into writing with the Warriors of Nairon, which that was never supposed to happen. I don't know why I ever included it, but when I added it, it's like, well, shoot, now I have to add it because I do add a secondary antagonist that appears at the later end of the book. That was never the intention, but I realized there's so much opportunity to explore. Let's just go with it.
I really that was probably my favorite. I think because I'm currently writing something that has multiple different characters that are all in a group, and I did learn a lot from reading that how to approach my own. So, but I also, I don't know, I just found it funny. I found like it was just entertaining watching these people come together who are so vastly different. I really enjoyed it. Now, Son of Persia, and you kind of already answered this. I think from before I move on, I think you just need to go ahead and market that book as the Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure book. Because I'm telling you, I was feeling it. Um, so for Son of Persia, you explore alternate history and that idea of what if moments throughout ancient worlds. Why why do you, and I mean other authors do it too. Why do you think that alternate history benefit storytelling or is because I feel like there's quite a few well, there's really not I'm there's not a quite a few authors. I'm thinking of like that the Stephen King 11 something
Oh,
63 and
11/2/63 about JFK's
JFK.
assassination.
Yes. Why do you think these are? Because I think these make the most fascinating books.
Absolutely, very true. But I think what people like about alternative history is probably more recent, like, JFK's assassination. World War II has a plethora
They do.
of alternative history because there's so many avenues. Guns of the South by Harry Turtledove is probably the first major example of
Maybe
alternative
that's who
history.
I'm thinking of is Harry Turtledove.
Yeah. But when we look at like ancient history, you don't really see a lot of that. You don't really see a lot of ancient history because a lot of people think, well, how is it going to impact the modern world? How is
That's
it
true.
going to change that? So, for me, writing alternative history, I wanted to show like, had this gone this way, I don't outright say this is what would have happened. I go the more appropriate route as this is probably the most likely plausible outcome
Yeah.
because there are so many tangibles that could throw the theory and the idea on its head. There are so many different curveballs that could have shifted the theory in any way.
I think you're right. I think people relate to the things like World War II because it's not so far back. So it's like a lot of times it can be like things that we remember or things that our parents remember or things that our grandparents remember. So we've heard about it. But you're absolutely right. If you go way back in time, everything would be different. I wonder why people don't write more alternative history going back that far. I guess you're just going to have to just make it your own and keep that market cornered for yourself.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think the reason why is because,
There's a lot of
you
research
know,
involved.
a lot of research, yeah, a lot of research involved. Whereas if you said, Man in the High Castle, Man in the High Castle was just, a fun experiment. But a lot of people have looked to it as, this is what would have happened. And I think with alternative history, the reason why people don't write alternative history is because that is the one drawback that people are going to take this ad verbatim and think that this is the most likely conclusion or outcome. It is not. It shouldn't be seen as, a plausible what if. It should be seen as a thought provoking what if because what if should be taking the sources of what is already telling us, but looking at, okay, what aren't they telling us? That's how what if should be when you're doing research.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, not a lot of people do that, take the extra time to actually figure out what would have most likely occurred, or what is the most plausible outcome for an event or for a person.
I think because and this is just a personal thought. We know that history repeats itself. I think that alternative history, especially when researched well, could be beneficial to see how things could go wrong if we
Hmm.
keep repeating the same process over and over again.
Absolutely. Very true.
Okay, here's your rapid fire round. You ready?
Alrighty.
Okay, you're the host of a podcast, Tales from the Wandering Scribe. How has talking to other writers and other, I guess, influencers who are in that field, whether it be a narrator or an author, how does that influence your own work?
Ooh, good question. So I love learning from a lot of people on the show, including yourself, Amar. I love having that interaction because it allows me to think of different avenues, what I could use, not only for writing, but also for marketing, for building a brand, and just gaining that interaction and, community from, all the people that I've met throughout, 7 years doing the show.
You've been doing it a very long time. I haven't been doing it. I think I'm like on month two. So yeah, that's you've been doing it a long time, and I've gone back and watched a lot of your interviews, and I really enjoy them. But now the question is, who has been your favorite interview?
Of
Ah,
course you would ask me that, Amara. Of course you would ask me. That is tough. That is really, really tough because I've had a lot of great people that
uh-oh,
I've had
someone's
on the
gonna get
show.
mad.
Oh gosh, if I okay, I wouldn't say differently that this is my favorite guest, but I will say the guest that I truly love having on the show in the plethora of guests because there's quite a few.
You've had
I
a
can name like
bunch.
I can name like a lot on just both hands because they are really good. But the one I would say definitely has a very dear place in my heart is my friend and fellow author from South Africa, Kim Appelgren, because she was the first person on my podcast when I was on Spotify. She was my first guest on YouTube when I started, moving away from just audio interviews to, interviews like these. And Kim has been my biggest cheerleader, my biggest supporter. So, Kim, if you're watching this, thank you for being an amazing friend. And if you want to talk about fantasy, Amara, Kim is like a die-hard George R. R. Martin, Song of Ice and Fire fan, Lord of the Rings fan, and Chronicles of Narnia fan. She even wrote her
Ooh.
own language for her debut novel, The Silent Witness, with symbols, an alphabet. So you want to talk about a die-hard fantasy lover? It's her.
Okay, I will check that out. There is something about that first interview person that you do that just sticks with you. And it's also a very safe answer. Uh, but yes, I get it because my first interview, he and I became friends, so I totally understand. Which one of the characters in your four books would absolutely survive a zombie apocalypse?
Oh, okay. That has to be, well, first off, that has to be Michael. Michael is a former angel. Plus, he has wings.
True.
He can fly. Plus, he commands literally an army of angels. So, yeah, my money is him all the way.
Which one's gonna die in the first 5 minutes?
Ooh, who's gonna die in the first 5 minutes? That's actually a good one. So it's between Amyntas, Decimus, Michael. The Gathering is a very interesting one because there's not really one main character. There's a lot.
It's
So
a
I'll just look
lot.
at the first. I'll just look at the first three books with those main characters. Dying in the first 5 minutes. It's either between. Well, here's the thing. Decimus will probably last a little bit longer because he has magic on his side, and he is literally the wolf of Rome. He is almost like a ghost rider. He's a specter. So it all depends. And let me ask you this, Amara. What kind of zombies are we looking at? Are we looking at traditional zombies or are we looking at modern zombies? Because that is
We're
definitely going
looking
to
at
change
the
the
fast
answer.
zombies from like World War Z or whatever it was called.
Okay, that definitely throws it into play. Okay, I would definitely think Amnesis would probably go a little bit longer just because he is battle hardened and he will probably go down fighting until the last, definitely. Now, if the prince was involved and he had power of the staff, that's a definitely game changer because as I said, that staff burns anything. If he says the right spell, he's murking like a large amount of people.
All right, so one of your main characters shows up at your house and they're very, very angry about how you treated them in the book. Are you going to apologize or are you going to run and hide?
Ooh, I actually, who's very, very mad. That would either have to be either between Decimus or Michael. I'd be more afraid of Decimus than Michael
Yeah.
for obvious reasons.
Yeah. Are you going to hide or are you going to apologize?
Well, Decimus is a Roman soldier, definitely stronger. So,
It's best to hide.
uh, that's tough. Do I run? And I would rather apologize because anything about Romans, they do not like any form of weakness. So I would apologize.
Okay, okay. I'd probably run right out the back door. I would not even a second thought I'd be out the back door. If you had to live in one of your books for 1 week, for one solid week, which one would you choose and which one would you say, I'm not going there?
Okay, first one out of the bad place I'm not living is the world of Michael. That is like hell on earth. I mean, yes, there are some places where, humanity has, recovered, but it has gods and monsters. You don't know if you're going to survive or not. Now, with that being said, the world of Amyntas and Decimus has its own share of problems, but I definitely think I could last a little bit longer. I think it also would be fun just to see, ancient Greece and ancient
That would be cool.
Rome and just travel the world. Now, with me also being a modern person carrying, a host of diseases, that can definitely throw. It's like the Stargate argument. I will be
True.
carrying every unknown disease. They would have no uh protection against it, no immune system strong enough to build it. So I would pretty much be the cause of
Wipe out of Rome.
wipeout of Rome and the destruction of Greece.
You would just bring the Black Plague with you. Oh, yeah, I hadn't thought about that. Now, that's true. Now, if you I told you my questions are ridiculous. I'm not even going to pretend like they're not. Um, what is the most what is the most ridiculous thing that you've done while procrastinating? When you're getting ready to write and you're not ready, what is the most ridiculous thing that you've done?
I wouldn't say it's ridiculous, but I definitely say it's like a hype. I will listen to battle scenes on my phone
That does
and
not
just
surprise me.
listen to like the sounds, and it's like I envision like what's happening with like characters. I try to imagine what my characters are doing. So the movies that I definitely listen to the most are either Lord of the Rings, Battle of Helm's Deep, Narnia, The Final Battle, Robin Hood, Russell Crowe, the beach scene, and
You mean
what's
not
another
Robin
one?
Hood with Kevin Costner? Not that
As much as I like that movie, there's not a lot of the battle scene in that one.
one. I
It's
know.
I do love that movie, but Robin Hood, Russell Crowe, the ending I absolutely love because the music, the
No, I
score
agree.
really helps sells it. And when I listen to those types of scenes, I always imagine characters in my head that I'm writing. How would they react?
There's
And
something about music that you can just like play it out in your head like a movie. I don't know. I just love that. That's why I always want a soundtrack with everything I'm writing.
absolutely.
Which historical figure in all of time would be the most fun for you to get into trouble with for one night?
So to get in trouble with
Yeah,
for
a bad night,
one
just
night.
doing bad things.
Oh, that's a good one. That's tough. There's a lot of interesting historical uh figures. I think oh, okay, now you put me on the spot because I literally don't know who I would uh
This is why I don't send the
want.
questions ahead of time. I want them on the spot.
Oh gosh. Who would I want to get in trouble with for one night if I had to? It has to be. Oh gosh, there's so many historical figures
That you know would be so much fun.
that would be so much fun to uh oh, okay.
Oh, he found it.
This character because his story is like crazy. So it's a famous general called Ziska. And why I would choose him is that during his, I forgot the war he's associated with, but he becomes blind. He loses both eyes, and yet still fights, and still has an
That's
amazing
awesome.
good time. So I would just like to hang out with somehow a guy who has both eyes completely destroyed and doesn't care.
And still kills it.
Yes, and
That's a
still lead
man to
men into
look up
battle.
to. All right, Gabriel, tell us what we have to look forward to from you next. Besides, you got your podcast, and we know that you have interviews going like crazy. I see them popping up almost every other day, it feels like. Um, we know that you've got books that are coming out soon that could connect to the uh, universes that you've created. What do you have next?
Well, I'll break this up into sections. So for my interviews, I have, the rest of March, which I am very excited. A lot of new people and returning guests are coming on the show. I am very excited for that. Now, for public appearances, I'll be making my second, appearance at the Los Angeles Times Festival of Books on April
Ooh,
18th from 10 to 12:30 and 3 to 5:30. That is on April 18th. That is a Saturday, and I'll be tabling at booth 128. So if you'd
nice.
like to meet me in person and order a copy or two of my books, I will be there. Speaking of my books, I am in the process of getting my fifth book self-edited before I work with my editors and get a beta read. Now, originally it was called The Wolves of Nobunaga. I have since changed it to The Seven Blades of Nobunaga. Now, that is a story that is going to be a trilogy set in ancient Japan during the Sengoku period. So that is the late 1500s that goes into throughout the books 2 and 3 the invasion of Korea by the Japanese in the late 1500s, early 1600s. And if you think that The Gathering is a perfect example of a D&D team, oh, you have no idea what you're in store for with the Seven Blades of Nobunaga. You have a samurai who becomes blind. You have a French mercenary. You have a Dutch mercenary. You have a young shinobi. You have a Shaolin monk. You have a one-armed samurai that has a battle axe. And you also have Yasuke, the famous African samurai. And of course, along the way, you get, well, I don't want to spoil it, but the team grows into a hodgepodge of mismatched characters you would not expect to work together, but they become a fighting force. There is love, there is banter. If you love The Princess Bride, you are going to love The Seven Blades of Nobunaga. I know, a weird comparison, but
That
one
is
of
a weird
my
compare. It's like D&D and Princess Bride, but I'm here for it.
and also, if I can, I will also be publishing a couple of short stories. One is going to be an anthology of 20 short stories that I have written but never published. Another one is going to be a novella of some kind. It is a mix of Rocky meets Timeline meets Spartacus.
Timeline, is that the one with
Gerard Butler and
Gerard
Paul
Butler?
Walker.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. And
I oddly remember that movie being not well reviewed, but me loving it.
yes, absolutely, absolutely. And of course, I have a whole bunch of other
That was
projects.
Paul Walker. You're right.
Yes,
All I remember is Gerard Butler and his hair.
yes, Anamar, here's something you can tell your viewers and listeners. For those who know this, and I'm going to tell you guys right now, I have the next 15 years of my life planned out for books. I have a list on a Google document of 15 books ranging from trilogies, standalones, sci-fis. One book in particular, which I love talking about, is Shadows of Honor, a samurai western. So if you enjoy films like Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, Magnificent Seven, Samurai Jack, and a lot of other samurai media, you're going to love
How
Shadows
do
of
you
Honor.
have 15 years worth of books? How many books have you written on this list for the next 15 years?
Exactly 15.
So one a year.
One a year.
Okay. How long does it take you from start to finish?
6 months to a year to write a book and then get it published.
Wow. 15 books. 50. I've noticed that a lot of people are putting their books out really quickly. And I'm not of that genre to put things out very quickly. I want to be though, but I'm just not. I take my time.
Absolutely. I completely understand.
Well, you have
And
to because your research is so in depth. I'm not doing that much research.
yeah, well, some of these are going to be, a little bit of fiction. Some of these are going to be a little bit of mafia, not mafia romance.
I
I
was
want to
gonna
make that
say.
very clear. It's not mafia romance, it's mafia crime thriller. You have some historical fiction. You have a possible dark historical romance that I will be writing. I know I'm not a romance writer, although I will say, Amara, if you, for anyone who reads Son of Persia, there is a scene. It's a little, it's a love scene, very closed door, using an industry term.
Yeah.
My friend who read it on camera, she's a narrator, cried. She couldn't read it because it was so beautiful. She teared up and cried and had to stop recording and messaged me saying, "You said you couldn't write romance. What the heck is this?"
I believe I know which scene you're talking about. So yeah, I can see you doing romance.
So I have a whole bunch of
Branch
stories
out,
planned.
do it all.
Yes, they're going to be historical. They're going to be some Vikings. They're going to be some Crusaders.
Oh, Vikings.
And
I've got friends who were like in the Viking era right now.
and one story which I do want to get to later, Amara, and I actually have the title for this. It is The Spectre of Salem. So if anyone has grown up watching The Crow with the late Brandon Lee and other sequels by him, The Spectre of Salem is my take on that kind of genre with a little bit of Ghost Rider, where it's set during the Salem witch trials and in an alternate American Revolution where the witch trials never end. You have
Ooh,
witch hunters. You have a
this is
woman
up my alley.
who has lost her husband to the witch trials, and now she's becoming a specter of Salem. She is super powered. She is on a quest for revenge, but there's a problem. The closer she stays to her revenge, she's invincible. The further away she deviates, she loses her invulnerability and starts to decay. She
Oh,
is dead. She is dead. She's a corpse brought back to life.
so very much like The Crow. And I love The Crow. I love The Crow. Of course, I'm old, so I was like at the theater watching it as an adult, as opposed to everybody who I know who's either A, never heard of it, or B, like saw it on some random TV, like TBS or something that's been edited for TV, because I'm old enough to go to the theater to see it because I'm
Yes,
old. I don't know what year it came out.
absolutely.
What year did that come out?
That was like the 1990s, I want to say, like 1998 or something.
Let's check. Let's just check. I know that Scream came out in 1996 because I was in college. The Crow and Brandon. Ugh, such a hottie. Holy crap, 1994.
I was not even born yet.
Oh, shut up. How old are you?
I'm 29.
Oh my God, I am so old. Okay, that's all right. That's all right.
You don't look it. You do not look it, Amara. I was gonna think you're probably like when I first met you, probably like late 30s.
Well, that's still an insult because I want to look 25.
I can see maybe late 20s. I could definitely see that.
I'll take anything in my 30s at this point. My husband and I were having that conversation because we went to a thrift store, and at this one of these thrift stores they say if you play, because it's at an old high school, and like if you played football here, we'll give you one of the old jerseys that has your number on it. And I was like, you're not gonna have his jersey because this man's old. And they did have his number. They went and pulled it out, but despite the fact this was an old jersey, it still wasn't the one that he played with because they don't
Ah,
even have those anymore. It's like, oh, well, it's okay. But I've really enjoyed you being here. I had a great time. I'm gonna put all of your stuff on the screen, like your website and your social media, and how to contact you if they want to do an interview of their own.
mm-hmm.
You do it pretty easy. You send the questions ahead of time because you're nice.
Yes.
I do not because I'm not nice. I'm looking. Okay, if you're gonna work on one, can you work on like the crow one next? Because that with the witch trials, because that's really up my alley.
I'll see. I'll see. I get to it, and if not, that'll definitely be my next book. But I will say this, Amara. The one book that I think you would definitely like, I hope, is The Shadows of Honor, a samurai western. And this is a little teaser. I will give your viewers and listeners a little teaser. So, Shadows of Honor is set in the mid 1800s. The son, his name is Jeremiah Walker. His father is an army commander, army captain. His parents go through a very nasty divorce. His mother has an affair with the father's best friend, who's a southerner who has a plantation in Texas. There's a huge fight. The friend is a senior ranking officer, so he outranks Jeremiah's dad. The dad is dishonorably discharged, conduct unbecoming of an officer. He loses everything in a divorce. He loses the family house. He's a broken man. But he has a friend, Commodore Matthew Perry, who says, I need men to go with me to Japan.
Matthew
And
Perry, as in
I
Chandler
know.
Bing.
So Jeremiah Walker and his father go to Japan. He lives in Japan for 20 years. His dad remarries to a Japanese woman. They have a daughter who is very fluent in English. The son, he is raised in Japanese culture. He's fluent in Japanese. He can write traditional characters, and he's skilled with a sword. He also partakes in Japan's first civil war, the Boshin War, from the late 1860s to the 1870s. But his father is brutally murdered on the eve of the declaration of surrender by the Tokugawa forces by a group of mercenaries hired by the shogun. Now, at this time, it's 1869, so Jeremiah's already like a full grown adult. Him and his sister go back to the States. Remember, he left with his dad in the 1840s, so it's almost been close to 30 years since he's been back. He doesn't know about the Civil War, he doesn't know about Reconstruction,
Oh
he
wow.
doesn't know anything about that. And he goes back to the States for one reason. The people that he is hunting, two of them are in Mexico. He doesn't know where. And he goes to Texas where he meets his mother, who married the best friend, has children,
With Matthew
and
Perry?
no, the southerner.
Okay.
The southerner. They have a family, and of course, into the Reconstruction, they're not as wealthy as they are, but they're trying to keep up appearances. Then they go to, well, he's invited to a Southern ball in Texas. And there's a young hotshot colonel from the Virginia Military Academy. And there's a fencing demonstration, and Jeremiah's, asked to partake in the duel. Jeremiah doesn't. He doesn't want to fight. The guy calls out his honor and insults his sister. Jeremiah can't let that stand. Now, remember, Jeremiah has been trained with a sword at a very young age, so he knows how to kill a person with the sword. And I want your viewers and yourself to imagine this, Amara. Imagine a cowboy. Think of Robert Redford's character from Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. And he has the samurai face mask. He's wearing armor, and pretty much he has a katana on his left side and a revolver on his right side.
Is he wearing a cowboy hat?
He is wearing a cowboy hat that's
Nice.
armored. That is
Oh,
armored, so he
nice.
can't get shot in the head.
Nice.
And so there's a duel. It happens. And Jeremiah almost kills the man immediately. He cuts the guy's sword in half, nearly opens the gentleman in question. And then there's a huge argument that happens about why are you doing this? You almost cause like a huge scandal. Jeremiah says, I'm not here to reconnect. I don't give a crap about you. I am only here to avenge my father. The mother had no idea the father was killed. And the reason why he's in Texas, the real reason him and his sister are there, her husband joined the Confederacy, became a galvanized Yankee, but still keeps in contact with his Confederate allies who fled to Mexico. So, for anyone who knows that movie, The Undefeated with John Wayne, they are in Mexico with the Prussian brothers. Those are the two who were part of the group in Mexico, hiding out with 1,000 samurai, 1,000 Confederates, and 2,000 former French legionnaires with the sole aim of trying to enact Operation Golden Circle, taking the Caribbean islands, southern states, and Mexico to create a new confederacy. And this is going to be a 4-book series that'll take Jeremiah and his sister from the United States and Mexico to Italy, to Egypt, and finally back to Japan, 1876, where they find out the Frenchman never left. He's now part of the Imperial
You're giving
Army.
us the ending.
I don't mind. I've said this numerous times on other shows, so it's all fine. This is just the whole idea of the whole story. And ultimately, it will end where Jeremiah realizes he can't outright kill the Frenchman because he's going to die. So he joins Saigo Takamori's rebellion, the Satsuma Rebellion, sparking the Battle of Shiroyama, aka my take on the Last Samurai story with Tom Cruise and Ken Watanabe. And
I
that is
love
all
Ken
I will say.
Watanabe. I love him. I love that movie. You get a lot of your influence from movies, I'm seeing.
Yes,
Yeah.
so that is a little teaser, everyone. I
Was that a
know.
little teaser? I feel like that was the whole series.
But that is what is to expect coming up. Now that may change with I know other books that may be in the works, but if you want to stay up to date, you can follow me on my social media, which Amara will be placing on Instagram, website, LinkedIn, and many more.
Well, Gabriel, it has been a lot of fun. You are a great guest. I hope you'll come back and play with us again sometime.
Oh, you bet. You bet.
And we will find each other again on some interview process. Maybe we can tag team somebody one day. That'd be
Absolutely.
terrible. I talk too much. I don't know if you would want that. But you've been great. I'm looking forward to your books. I read 3 of your 4. I really enjoyed them, and I will make sure that there are pictures across the screen and links and everything down in the bio. So, yep, I appreciate you being here, and I hope you have a great day today.
You as well, Mar. You have a wonderful day yourself, and I look forward to our next episode together.
All right. Thanks, Gabriel. Bye.
Bye, everybody.